Novella Petronella. Hope everyone's doing great. Um, well, this has nothing to do with crypto, but can I just tell you, I've been taking iodine drops for about a week now, maybe a little bit less, and it makes you not need sleep. I normally am someone who needs 8 hours of sleep. Not anymore. I was up till 5 a.m. the other night, and I think I got 2.5 hours sleep, and I still feel like my IQ is going higher. Like I'm unlocking IQ points if that's possible. And it's been like that ever since. The last 2 days, I just really haven't needed sleep. I may have transmuted into a late night person. I don't think I'm going to need food anymore. One of my friends was like, "Are you okay?" I said, "I can pull a horse. Try me." But seriously, I think my body was so deficient in it that at some point my body just said, let's show her what we can really do. And in this case, it's not need sleep, and I don't even care. So if you're looking for a good life hack, I think I found one for you. Just do your own research if you're going to get into it like anything else. Anyway, I actually do happen to believe that most everything is connected in some way or another. And because of that, one of my friends used to try to debate me on it and talk to me about pareidolia a lot, which is where you link things up or you link two things together that are like incongruent and you make the connection between them where there isn't any. And he didn't think anything was connected. He just thought life is random and then you pretty much die. Real optimist. So pareidolia would say that you're seeing things that aren't really there. Like, I guess a small example would be like seeing clouds, and you see pictures in them or something like that. And so we used to go back and forth on that. And I totally understand that sometimes you can read way too deeply into things, and sometimes you just have to like zoom back out and relax a little bit, which I think that happens everywhere. I think it happens in the XRP community, or any community. You know, sometimes it's possible to overanalyze, you know, with things like crypto, and you see things that aren't there, and then maybe you need to course correct a little bit. But I believe that more things are connected than we might think. And just because you don't see what the connection is up front doesn't mean it's not actually there. And that's just how I operate. I can't help that. But some things maybe take years to see what the connection is. But then at some point you look back and you go, oh, well, since this random thing over here happened, then this other meaningful thing over here came out of it, and look at how it all fits together like a puzzle. It's like it was orchestrated by a surgeon. And I really love that. I don't know what you would call it, if you call it alchemy, or it's the third thing that comes out of two contrasting things or two random things. That third thing is so cool to me. And in crypto, you'll always see investors, doesn't matter which coin or which asset, who are making connections to partnerships and, you know, announcements, doing deep dive research to link up things like business decisions, and see if they match up with like possible price movements and things like that. That is always going on. That's slightly different because those kinds of connections can be much easier to spot and to legitimize, whereas thinking in a way or having a worldview that everything is connected is a much tougher sell. That's probably obvious. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine on text the other day, and he's an intelligence analyst and an IT guy, which I cannot relate to even a small percentage of the time. It actually pains me to try to comprehend how technical people's minds work. It's fascinating to me. Some of them are like, it's like they have robot brains. Like, who created you? So he was asking me questions about crypto, and he's new to this. He wanted to know more about XRP and why he wanted to know why some coins will do well in the future and why others aren't going to. So I thought, well, those are good questions, and I gave him a little bit of context in terms of XRP and just Ripple the company, and I sent him some terms to look up like ILP or DLT or whatever, and I sent him some YouTubers to look at, and then I kind of just forgot about it. It was probably a day and a half, 2 days later, he texts me, I completely lost my ass in XRP trading simulations. I was like, what? I said, whatever that means, don't do any more of it. Okay, just buy it and hold it like a normal new person. Could you do that maybe? I said, were you able to trade the XRP like in Second Life? He was trying to set up something with XRP if he could. That was his original plan. Second Life being that I think it's like a game or an app. It came out a long time ago, but and he said no, it's a simulation, but no, it's MetaTrader and Hugo's Way demo. I was like, what in the hell is he talking about? And I said, you can actually use XRP there? And he said, yeah, this was the screenshot that he sent me. He sent me about 4, but this was one of them. And I said, how did you even find that out already? Like, can you use it for real? And he said, yeah, you just have to get a broker in the MetaTrader app. It's a real app with a simulated demo broker. And he said it's all he's been doing since Friday. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, another budding XRP member takes their rightful spot and joins the madness. I love it. Go on your journey, friend. It will take you many magical places. And then he's like, sends another screenshot. He's like, this is 8 days bearish, but generally bullish in the last hour. I said, do you follow any XRP news yet, or like anyone on Twitter or anything? And he said, no, I've never followed anyone. I said, oh, I'm not surprised. And he said, well, I follow Garrett Wang because he's a good human and I'm a Trekkie. No idea who that was. I had to look him up, and that was also no surprise. But that is why I never discount someone's curiosity about crypto. You never know where it's going to lead. You know, people looking at it for the first time, people really astound me at how much they take things and run with it like he did, and God even knows what's going to happen. I mean, he hasn't even really started investing yet. So I look forward to that day. But you know, my first time was last year. That's when I really started getting into crypto, and I just stuck with it. And that some people come and they stick to it right away is also fascinating to me. That ratio of people who stick versus the majority of people who are like, yeah, this is shit, and then they make fun of it and they walk away. I think that gap is going to get much more narrow soon. But as he gets acquainted with XRP and the digital realm, he's going to touch people in his network. So he will ripple out, so to speak. So if you're newer here, welcome. Whether you fall into the side of more technical or you don't, you'll definitely learn a lot. It's a great community of really good people. You might also see the occasional healthy debate and not so healthy ones, like any big dysfunctional family that sometimes wish they really weren't connected, but they kind of have to be to get things done in a way because it's a symbiotic relationship and they kind of need each other in a weird way to some degree, but they usually don't think so. It's kind of like that. But the bottom line is we're all here to invest and see returns. And in the process, we have to encounter actual humans, unfortunately. Humans that have beating hearts and very imperfect decision-making skills sometimes. But I still think those kinds of things are weirdly connected too. So if you've been one of the observers to all the drama going on the past few weeks around XRP Town, you probably have a real-time opinion of it, like, you know, this is stupid or this was very needed for the community itself or whatever you think. But fast forward in time, and if you look back on this period in retrospect, guaranteed it will also spin other things in the right direction for many people, like a good shakeup, like a good thunderstorm or something. And sometimes that's what you need for things to change. I heard this phrase once that goes something like, people, don't quote me on this, people out in the world are like diamonds in the rough. And as they repeatedly bump into each other, they smooth each other out. And that's how they become diamonds. That's not the exact phrase, but I think my iodine is wearing off, but it's something like that. So I thought I'd share a story, sort of like an FU to pareidolia. But when I was teen, my parents were essentially sick of my shit. And they sent me away to Minnesota for bad kids. That's like kind of the short version. I wouldn't even say I was bad. I think I was misdirected is what it was. But I was getting in a lot of trouble at school. I was skipping, it wasn't if I was going at all. And I remember just I was really worried because I had a social studies test and I really didn't want to take it. It gave me a lot of anxiety. So I was like, how can I get out of this? So my best idea was to call in a bomb scare so that I could not have to take the test. And that would be great. It seemed really rational to me that day. It really did. I didn't think anything would come of it. I called the school from the school. I didn't even know what I was going to say. The office lady picked up. She was like, hello. I said, bomb scare, 3 o'clock. And she said, thank you. And she hung up on me. And the next thing I knew, the fire drill bell was ringing and people were like running outside and the bomb squad showed up. And the entire school was evacuated and everybody was like, bomb scare, bomb scare. See, this is how rumors get started. So when I look at it now, I'm pretty horrified by my decision. But at the time, that was my decision making. And it turned out it was one of those, I guess, life catalysts. And so by this time, my parents had definitely had enough of my antics. There were many of them, and they said, we're shipping you off to Minnesota, where you will be rehabilitated. We're going to put you there for a month. You're not going to see your friends. You're not going to hear from your friends. No one will be able to write you a letter. Literally, you will not hear from anybody for an entire month. What do you think of that? I said, well, the brochure, there was ashtrays on the table, and that I thought was great. I thought, that sounds good. So they, fast forward, 3 months later, I was still there. I guess they thought I needed some more revamp. So I was living in this group home with other kids who were much more screwed up than me, in my opinion, but it was a nice group of kids. One kid was smoking nutmeg, so to give you some backdrop, but I made some really good friends there, and I met, girls and guys that I really liked. One guy I really liked, his name was Benedict, and he was from Manhattan, and someone flew him out to Minnesota for the exact same reason as me. Like, they wanted to rehabilitate him. And so we hit it off. He was kind of a unique guy. It was winter time at the time in Minnesota, so he used to walk through the streets with like this big Mexican blanket that he had cut a hole in the middle, and he wore it as a parka, like a jacket. So we were going into town one day. We tried to hold hands on the bus, and someone else from the house was on the bus, and they snitched on us. So we got caught, and there was a house meeting about how fraternizing was just not okay when you're trying to become an adult in a place like this. So they had a meeting with like 10 of them, and they were scolding us, and they said, do you really want to be like this? And we didn't know. So we just stayed friends. And at the end of your time in the house, you get to have like a little graduation party, and so people in the house come into the living room and they sit with you, and you pick a goodbye song. And then all the kids come and they say goodbye at the meeting, and your counselors play your song for you, and everyone hugs you and everyone cries. And so he played Judy Blue Eyes, which is like a pretty long song. It's got to be 7 minutes. And so everybody hugged him and said goodbye and jumped around. He was dancing with everyone, and then that was it. He graduated and then he left. So I was still there. I think they had put me on the extended plan, the extended plan. So I wasn't going anywhere fast. But once, everyone left Minnesota, I stayed in touch with him, and we visited a few times, but, over time just lost touch again. And then eventually we grew up and we became adults. And after that, really never spoke again. And but I always remembered what a unique guy he was, and I always like wondered if he was okay. And he was kind of a mess, if I'm being honest. Not that I wasn't, but so anyway, years and years went by, and I moved out of where I was. I moved to Arizona. I moved to California, and my life took on its own thing, like your life does. And then it was about maybe a month or two ago, and I was getting ready to move to the East Coast, and I was packing one night, and one of my brothers called me, and he's a yoga instructor, and he lives in New York City, and he's also like the resident character in my family. Really funny guy. He tells much better stories than I do, and he's also really connected to a lot of good people in this city that like to help people. like people that are in trouble, or they have nowhere else to turn, and so he does that a lot. He so he calls me and he's like, so listen to this. He said, I'm sitting in this coffee place last night. I'm hanging out with some other guys that I know, and one of our other friends comes walking in with this other guy, and they say, hey, we've been looking for you, meaning my brother. We thought you'd probably be the best person to help this guy because he's a mess. He needs help really bad. And so the guy sits down with my brother, and my brother says, let me get you some coffee and tell me about you. What's going on with you? So they start talking, and the guy asks him, where you're originally from, and he tells him, and the guy says, well, I only know one other person from that area, and her name is Novella Petronella, but I met her in Minnesota when I was a teenager. And my brother says, dude, that's my sister. And I know, when I heard that story, it surprised me, but it really didn't, because that's just how things work. And it's been a month, and Benedict and my brother have become really good friends, and it's amazing. I mean, he's starting to turn his life around, and I got a call last week, and my brother said, they're celebrating his birthday, so we're gonna take him out, and it's just really special. He's really coming around, and I told him, play Judy Blue Eyes for him, for me.